Hi, Sean here from the Trusted Agent Podcast, and thank you for joining us on today's show, where each week we talk to experts both inside the industry and outside the real estate industry to gain their unique perspectives on what they believe real estate agents can do to build their credibility, efficiencies, and connections with others. A huge shout out to our sponsor, Rezo Real Estate Sales Online, who's absolutely revolutionizing how real estate agents deal with prospective buyers and vendors. Their online platform that manages the offers and acceptance process is simple, easy to use, giving time back to the agents so they can do what they do best. All right, so stick with me and let's see who today's guest on the show is. Hi, everyone. Sean here from the Trusted Agent Podcast, and I'm so excited to see our guest here today. We're joined by Adrian Knowles, the CEO of Harcourts. It's so good to see you, Adrian. Thanks for jumping on today.
Sean, thank you for having me. Very excited.
And you've had quite a short journey with Harcourts and joining, I think, was it March or May initially?
Yeah, May.
May as the CEO for growth and moving over from another major franchise. And now you're in the seat. And I've been a longtime supporter and a business partner in my previous role with Harcourts Connect for 5.5 years. And it's pleasing to see you coming through and they're giving an opportunity of someone from the outside, but with loads of experience to offer their unique take. For those people that don't know you or haven't worked with you in the past, could you just give us a brief background on who you are and how this opportunity came about for you and why you took it with both hands?
Sure. Well, you did mention I could go long or short, so we might do a fast, long version.
Sounds great.
I joined the cadetship program straight out of university. And started in Coorparoo in Brisbane and had an amazing mentor there for a very short period of time. Unfortunately passed away. At that stage I was asked to join the Paddington office of that franchise and spent 3 or 4 years there working with the number one business or agent in that particular franchise, which was just a massive learning opportunity. But also, for the good and the bad, I realized that I was probably working a touch too much as a young man, and I got burnt out. I couldn't times 2 and working 7 days a week, 14 hours a day, and I decided to go backpacking. So I did like you said earlier, the hero's journey. I did the young Aussie trip to Europe, and I did that for 18 months. And
Oh, wow.
while I was over there, I said I'd never go back into real estate, and very quickly was back in real estate and had was back into the the role of a sales agent and then business owner and principal before getting the opportunity to go into the corporate side of things and spending some time with one of the major networks and learning. That's probably where I learned the craft of and kind of formulated my purpose, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I realized that it wasn't all about me, and that this is actually to assist others in achieving success and their ambitions. So that's where I found my place. I didn't know it at the time. I spent 3 or 4 years there in that team before going back out into the world as a business owner again. And by then I had a young child and again working long hours and doing that. And my wife one day said, "Mate, you're just not happy. You were so much happier when you're at the corporate office." And that hit home. And within a month and a half, I was back in the corporate office and did three more years there prior to having the opportunity to join the Harcourts team.
That's fantastic. When in doing our research of our guests to work out who we want to have the show, we looked at your journey, and sometimes with some franchise groups where we see people in the corporate office or in a powers position, but haven't done the hard yards as well, from the ground up. So that's why we're really excited to have you on the show and get your unique perspective and represent Queensland as well. I want to ask you, when you had a child and you're working in the life of a real estate agent, hustle and the bustle, do you even remember the first 6 months of your child's life?
Well, it was the part that actually changed everything was I realized that I couldn't settle my son, and
Get out of
he
that.
could only be settled by my wife, and that hit home in the fact that at the time I probably just wasn't present enough. Um, and I learned at that time off a mentor that it doesn't matter, and he's extremely busy. It doesn't matter how much time you spend with your family. It's about that presence, and that actually translates all the way through what we do. That translates into leadership with our people. That translates at the kitchen table with prospective vendors. It translates all the way through.
Yeah,
That
it's about the
presence is
quality.
so vitally important.
Yeah, the quality time, not the quantity. I was the same with my daughter, my first daughter. I don't remember the first 6 months, and I couldn't settle her. So I'd still get up for the night feeds, but I'd pretty much sleep on the floor at the feet of my wife as she was settling the daughter because I didn't have that connection. But I
Well,
changed
I've got
everything
three
for my
boys
second.
now, so
I got three boys.
I've got an 8-week old now at home as well.
Oh my God! All right. Well, you're looking great and doing well. I got to tell you, for an 8 week old. Okay, so let's shift it a bit because I did want to get your unique perspective about uh, all what the Trusted Agent podcast is all about. Is about helping agents build greater credibility, organization, and connection with others, which all leads to trust. What are you seeing now from your perspective? What's happening in the industry, or what's causing you concern at the moment?
Uh, when we speak about concern, I actually think it's how we're viewed. So how agents are viewed by the public, they're inherently cynical of why we're talking to them. I actually believe that changed in the late 90s, early 2000s when a couple of different industry trainers started teaching real estate agents that every person you speak to, you have to ask if they're looking to sell or if they know someone looking to sell. And in the first meeting, when we're taking, um, if we do that enough, or if everyone does that enough in the industry will, the perception of the industry will change. Whereas I talk to my auntie who's been in the industry, 45, 50 years, and some of my mentors from pre-2000s, and they talk about being a service before sale industry back then, providing information for free for a long period, building relationship, because trusted. The name of your podcast here is vitally important. Trust is built over time, and trust is built through relationship. Trust is a real estate agent's commodity. That is what they do every single day. Is build trust, and they build it through relationship. Trust can only be built over a period of time.
Mm,
Otherwise, you're doing what every other agent is doing in a listing presentation, which is using the 2 hours of the listing presentation to build trust, the same as the other 3 or 4 agents that are coming in. And it's whoever builds trust first wins, but not always. It's actually whoever drops fee or whoever gives a higher price for the property wins. So
mm,
how do our agents be better in those situations? Is they extend that 2 hours to 4 years. Let's
mm.
actually provide value. Let's consistently communicate with relevant information to people that aren't in real estate mode for a long period of time. I'm not talking about badgering them with emails every week. I'm talking about giving them information every quarter that's relevant to their property. And so in doing that over a period of time, we build a relationship and therefore trust. That is where our industry has to change. Our industry has to flip what's currently happening on its head, sale then service, get the listing, then service the vendor, and change it entirely to service the prospective vendor before we get the listing.
Yeah, I love that. There's so many words stick out for me: time, consistency, relevant information, extending beyond just the moment. I think that's fantastic. Is that how you yourself, maybe you could think of one or two examples throughout your career that or moments that you went, oh, this is a light bulb moment for me. This is what I'm learning, whether it's a lesson from a mentor or something that was practical in the moment. Was there anything for you that when the penny dropped?
Yeah, it was a lesson from a mentor, and it was when I first got back into the industry, 2011, 12. Um, my mentor at the time said, Adrian, next 6 months, I don't want you to sell a single property. All I want you to do is collect a group of people in the community in one area that are happy for you to keep in contact with them. I chose an area called Morningside. And at that time, there was only one agent that had sold over 3 sales properties in the prior year in Morningside.
Wow.
So it was a real transition suburb. And there was over 500 sales happened in Morningside of 6,000 properties. So it was a really transient type population. People were coming to Morningside before they upgraded and moved into Billimba, Balmoral, Hawthorn.
Mm-hmm.
And what he said, I want you to door knock morning and night. And I want people to essentially know what you look like from the back of you as you're walking away from them. And they can go, there's Adrian. He's the local area expert.
Yes.
And that was a foundation. I ended up databasing and building a network of about 1,800 people in that year that were happy for me to keep them up to date with what was going on in the market. At the end of that year, I sold over 20 properties in Morningside.
Well,
So
20.
that was 20 properties in Morningside in that first year. And anyone that knows me knows no matter what the dress code is, whether it's a Christmas function or a conference, I wear a suit and tie and a white shirt. That's because
that's your brand.
That's my brand. That's my profile. That's how I want to be known.
Yep.
And I wanted people to be able to see me and go, there's Adrian.
How important do you think personal brand is to building your image, which then leads to trust, I guess? But why did you decide on your personal brand first and foremost, I guess?
Well, it works in conjunction with prospecting. Personal brand is about profiling. Prospecting is about two-way conversations. Prospecting isn't letters to the area, because that is profiling. That is one way. That means we're relying on someone to actually be in real estate mode and call us. Prospecting is having conversations. Every year I write in my diary, this year's the year of talking to more people.
Yeah.
The more people we talk to, the more trust we build, the better our result will be. It's amazing. We see the young agent into the office, and they've only been there a month. And some of the older agents with what they call dead stock, the listings that they just can't sell, they go, here, whippersnapper, you take control of the listing and see how you go. And all of a sudden, those young, energetic, great attitude agents go at that listing with vigor, and all of a sudden, guess what happens? That unsaleable bit of stock sells.
Yeah.
Because they give service to that vendor, they build trust really quickly, because that's all they have. And they throw everything at it, and all of a sudden it sells, and they sell 2 or 3 more, and that's how they really get that leg up. Attitude is everything.
Yeah, they don't have a preconceived
skills
notion
in this industry every day of the week.
Yeah. It's funny. We see that sometimes in sales and different organizations across different industries switching territories, because whether salespeople want to recognize it or identify it and put their hand up and say, maybe that's me, you can develop a bias over time that that just will never sell. I've tried everything. And then all of a sudden you flip a territory and they're having success. It's not to be bitter. It's just a different mindset and different attitude.
And it depends on the market as well. In a market like that's hot right now, if something's on the market longer than 6 weeks, it's unsaleable. But in a previous market where it's been a lot tougher, you get to 120 days. And you're like, okay, well, I'm just not going to move this. That's the perception. But the drama there is, what happens is an agent thinks that they're not going to move that bit of stock. So because they haven't got something good to say to the vendor, they stop calling. They go from calling every day to calling once a week to calling once a month, which is the exact opposite of actually doing the work to sell that property. Because the vendor's going through an emotional cycle, right? They actually have to be unhappy at some stage to accept a price lower than the price they want for the property. And
Yeah.
when they're unhappy, they have a choice of who to blame. They either blame the agent, and the agent, has probably stopped servicing and building trust, or following through on the trust that they've built, or they blame the market. And when they blame the market, when we've done the service and we've still got the trust there, when they blame the market, they inevitably take responsibility for where their property actually sits in the market, and they sell their property and they're happy. But when
Yeah.
it goes the other way around, we'll never be able to sell that piece of stock.
No. I love that. Okay, so what would you say are some tips that you would give agents starting out now? Would you give the same advice as what you were given from your mentor, or would it be something different?
100%. The value that we build when we first get into the industry is in relationships. It's not in instantly getting a listing, because what happens is a young agent fresh to industry gets a listing, which is what they actually believe real estate's all about, is the selling of a piece of a property. Um, when they get that listing, they completely forget about all the other prospecting. They completely
Mm,
forget about building more and more relationships, and they do everything to sell that property. And they spend the next 6 weeks selling that property, and then have the first experience of building and pest, evaluation. They put all their time into that. But what happens is 5 or 6 weeks goes by until they get that piece of that property. 5 or 6 weeks go by until they sell it. Another 4 weeks goes by until it's unconditional. We're sitting at 3 months, and
yeah.
all of that time they haven't prospected again. So they have to go back to the beginning. And that's what starts this, which is everyone understands the ups and downs, the waves of income. And that's actually why people leave in the first year, because
Yeah.
they can't handle the ups and downs of income. I've seen amazing, amazing people leave this industry because they've not been set up to succeed by their business owner, or by their thoughts and ideas around the industry, but to fail. Because a lot of business owners go, um, get out their door knock and find appraisals, instead of finding people that are happy with us to keep them up to date with what's happening in the market.
Yeah.
When we're looking for appraisals, we're looking for 3% of the population that are in the market. That's out of 100 door knocks or 100 connects on door knocks. There's three people that may be in real estate mode. One of those has no idea who you are. The other one has already chosen an agent, or an agent's built trust. The third one may or may not let you into their front door.
Yeah.
So it's a really hard way to get into the business. It also sets people up to be opportunistic instead of relationship building. If
Yeah.
you're taught to go out and chase opportunistic listings or properties, people that are in real estate mode right now, then you actually hit a capacity cap. So your personal capacity, the amount that you can door knock, the amount that you can telemarket, the amount that you can kind of get out there and find those now opportunities, is at a capacity. You never get to increase past that capacity,
Yeah,
which is
because
that database management.
and you're focusing on that 3% instead of the total 100%. If you're focusing on transactions, you're here. Focusing on
Yep,
relationships, it's a much bigger picture.
because
There's
you're
something,
focusing on trust.
yeah. There's something you said about the roller coaster. And for many people in that first year, it can be really challenging to stick it out. But I think if you're a mentor and looking after someone coming in the industry and saying, this is what you can expect if you don't plan for it. So what are
100%.
some things that you could offer to some agents to just be aware of, or watch outs, or how they could plan for that a little bit better?
It's probably understanding your market. I chose Morningside because I did the understanding, I did the research, and I worked out how many transactions were occurring. A lot of young agents go, I want to sell in Bulimba, or Balmoral,
Mm,
Hawthorne, because the price is so high. But the simple fact is, there's far less transactions that are occurring in those suburbs. And there's a lot of agents, there's over 200 agents operating out of Bulimba, out of Oxford Street, that
yeah.
are all focusing on that area.
Yeah.
So let's actually look holistically at where the agent we want to become and how to get there. we need to give ourselves the best chance to be able to do it.
Mhm.
Best chance of it. I had to go to a high turnover area, and build trust and relationships quickly because I had a young family at home to feed. I wasn't willing to go into that Bulimba, Balmoral, Hawthorn market because I knew that I may end up selling 6, 7, 8 properties in a year where I could sell 35, 40 in Morningside. I
Mhm.
know where I knew exactly where I needed to focus.
Yeah. Okay, great. So we've got so much there. So you talked about you would follow the advice given to you from your mentor. You would absolutely be targeting the whole relationship bubble, not just the 3%.
Yep.
There's also something you said before, local area expert. Now, some people say it, and some
Yep.
people say it and live it. So, what are some of the things that you would suggest for agents and setting themselves up to? Because I totally agree. If you want to be, trusted and held in high regard and value, you got to be an expert on the local area and what you're working at. So, what
Yep.
are some tips you could offer there?
So we spoke about prospecting and profiling. The profiling bit is being seen. So how are we seen? How are we showing up in that local area? Um, have we got relationships with the sporting groups in the schools? You know, and this might be a crazy thought. We're happy. A lot of agents are happy to pay 20% to open agent for a lead, but they're not willing to pay $1,500 to the local school to go into their newsletter.
Yeah.
Well, let me throw something out there. What happens if we meet with our local school and offer the school 10% of every commission for every referral that comes through to the school as a donation? How, we get 5, 6, 7 listings out of a school in a year. They receive quite a substantial amount of money that we would have never had access to if we hadn't have done that. And the school will do absolutely everything to get us in front of everyone in their catchment.
And you're supported by being presented as the community hero, giving back to the school as well.
100%. And which
That's
is
a true
exactly what
partnership.
we want to do. That's not to get listings. That's to have that local area expert. My local hockey club, I did exactly the same with, and by the end of that year, it was amazing the amount of people that were calling me. And you know what? Local area expert doesn't just mean that we only give advice in the local area. I want
Mm.
everyone. I want if they're buying in Townsville, I want people to give me a call to talk about the market. We all go to Christmas parties, we all go to birthdays, we go to barbecues. And what's the first thing that we get called? The first question is, "Oh, what do you do for a living?" "I'm in
Mm.
real estate." What's the second question? "How's the market?"
Yeah.
And if we're not intelligent and if we're not giving a service to everyone that asks that question, how can we call ourselves an expert?
Mm.
Because the normal thing that I hear is, "Oh, the market is booming. We've never had it this good." That's
Everywhere.
ac- that's actually not what we should be saying.
Yeah.
We should actually be asking more information because the markets are very different.
Yeah.
Sean, do you mind if I ask, are you looking at buying or are you looking at selling? Are you
Yeah.
currently in a unit market or have you got a home? Is it in this suburb or is it elsewhere? Let's give educated, advice, because being a trusted advisor or being that, building that relationship, it's actually about giving relevant information to them, not just broad statements. Um, and then
Yeah.
it's also following up. It's following through.
Yeah, I love that. What do you do? How's the market? I think one of the best responses you could ever say is, well, it depends. Is there a particular market you're interested in? Why? And then take
Yep,
that path. But it depends is such a good little bridging question there as well.
100%.
um, okay, this is excellent. In terms of following up, this is an area, and you talked a bit about it in this podcast, where, and we sometimes see it, people are turning to technology. And it's great. I work for Rezo, a great prop tech company. That's not a shout out, but thanks, Rezo, for being a sponsor. But one of the things that I sometimes get concerned about is agents that run towards technology to replace their communication instead of looking at technology for automation, and so that they can communicate more and do more of that relationship and engagement.
It's so important that you brought that up, and that is one of our focuses. We've got a massive year here at Harcourts next year. We've got 5 different technology rollouts in the year, which is just, most agencies do one every 2 years. So it's a massive year for us. HIL, Harcourts International and Harcourts Australia, have made a distinct change in our technology strategy. Our technology is solely focused at being able to, we spoke about it before, consistency and relevant, provide for our agents to use this technology to be consistent, to actually get in front of people and build relationships. It's not about replacing what we do. It's making us more consistent in getting in dollar producing activity or dollar producing conversations, building relationship and trust. Technology will not replace us, not in the near future. So we need to focus on technology assisting us in doing what we do best, which is building relationships and trust. From my experience, agents aren't the best at being consistent. We smell a listing that way and we start blindly walking towards it, and we forget everything that we were supposed to do that morning. And that's the industry as a whole. So how do we be consistent? How do we use our CRM or our technology to squirrel away time, to tell us who we need to speak to so we can be consistent? Building relationship, after 3 months, the people in our marketplace, we're only agents. We're not the church pastor. We're not someone of great importance. After 3 months, they forget who we are. That's where do we sit on their names to remember list? It's pretty low, let's be honest. So unless we actually communicating consistently and actually connecting, not just emailing, every real estate email ends up in the same spot. I hate to say it. They don't want to, the general public that aren't in real estate mode don't want to see our, how to get your home ready for spring selling season. They don't want to see the recipes for Christmas. They want to see relevant information to them. They don't want to see it every week. They want to see it, every quarter. If we're sending something every week, every fortnight to someone that's not in real estate mode, they're all ending up in the same spot, in the junk file. So how do we be relevant is really important.
That's excellent. Thank you so much for your time today, Adrian. I'm really excited to see the roadmap come to life for Harcourts. Harcourts has gone through some significant changes, and that 5 technology rollouts alone for the next year. Wow, that would be exciting. What are you looking forward to most in the year ahead?
To be honest, I'm really looking forward to watching our network and our people make the most of this market. February 2019, COVID kicks off, and we all sit back in our chair and go, what's going to happen? Who would have ever thought that we would have seen the market that we've seen? It just shows that there is no crystal ball. Whatever the market does next year, whether it plateaus, whether it keeps going, whether it comes off and quietens slightly, our people need to be effective and need to be really ready to do volume and ready to go. So I just want to see, super excited to see how our network takes up that mantle and what they can do, no matter what the market throws at them. I can't wait to see what our people, do with it.
I think that's an excellent vision. No matter what the market does, make sure you're maximizing it either way.
100%.
Thank you so much, Adrian, for joining us today. I really got a lot out of your insights. It was great sharing in your experiences, and I really look forward into seeing what the next couple of years brings for you and the Harcourts family as well. For our viewers and listeners today, thank you for joining us on the Trusted Agent podcast, and we look forward to seeing you on the next episode. Thank you very much. Bye.
Thanks, Sean.